As her class at Wellesley prepared to graduate, students in one of Hillary's government classes decided that for the first time ever, a student should speak at graduation. As student body president, it was Hillary who was selected. Eleanor Atchison collaborated on the speech.
I wrote the speech that she never gave. Instead of sticking with the prepared text, she went off into this now, infamous extemporaneous commentary.
That's because Massachusetts Senator Edward Brooke spoke first, giving a speech that Hillary felt exemplified exactly the kind of unconscious leadership she and her fellow students were rebelling against.
He did give graduation speech number, 926, and I think it was more than Hillary could take, and in fact, it was actually a personification of one of the themes that we had written about in the speech, which was completely numb leadership.
So Hillary got up and chastised Brooke for his lack of relevance. She said she and her classmates were searching for more immediate, ecstatic, and penetrating modes of living. Hillary got a standing ovation from her classmates, a cold shoulder from some parents, and a write-up in Life magazine. Hillary would be heading to Yale Law School with her political transition well underway.
Do it! Do it!
During Hillary's first year at Yale Law School, New Haven, like campuses across the country, was a center of student protest.
1, 2, 3, 4, Vietnam, the racist war.
Hillary never became a radical, as in college she sought social change by working within the system. She organized fellow student marshals to monitor the crowds, to prevent riots. That year she also got involved in the women's movement as a student representative to the League of Women Voters. But amidst the tumultuous changes in American society, the biggest change in Hillary's life would occur the following year, and not on New Haven Green.
The very first impression I had of him was I was walking through the student lounge area where the Coke machines are at Yale, and I heard this voice off to my left, and it was saying, and not only that, we grow the biggest watermelons in the world. And I said to the friend I was with, who is that? And they said, that's Bill Clinton. He's from Arkansas, and that's all he ever talks about.
Soon after that, they were both in the law library, where, as with her first date, Rick Ricketts, Hillary made the first move.
He was standing in the hallway outside the law library at Yale, which is this wonderful Gothic structure, and he was surrounded by all of these fellow classmates who were trying to convince him to be on the Yale Law Journal.
I said, look, I'm going home to Arkansas, and I'm not going to get a big Wall Street job. I'm not going to go clerk on the Supreme Court. I'm going home, be a country lawyer. I don't know if I want to be on the Law Journal.
And he was listening politely, but he was watching me because I was watching him, because I was in the law library at this long table studying, and I finally thought, this is, kind of silly.
And finally, she just put down the book she was reading and walked the entire length of the law library and walked up to me, and she said,
if you're going to keep looking at me and I'm going to keep looking back, we at least ought to know each other, and I'm Hillary Rodham.
What's your name? Well, I couldn't remember my name.
In 1972, George McGovern set out to unseat presidential incumbent Richard Nixon. Bill and Hillary had already been living together. That summer, they began their political work together. Gary Hart assigned Bill to coordinate McGovern's Texas campaign. Hillary went with him to Austin to register Hispanic voters. Fellow volunteer Betsy Wright became a lifelong friend.
And I just remember her showing up in the headquarters one day to see Bill Clinton, and I thought she was just coordinating. Pretty soon it became clear to me that this was a lot of very personal coordinating, too.
After the campaign, the couple returned to Yale Law School. Bill had spent 2 years in England as a Rhodes Scholar before going to Yale, so he still had another year. While he studied, Hillary began to focus on what would become her legal specialty, the rights of children, working at the Yale Child Study Center. It had been obvious to Betsy Wright, even the summer before, that this was one of Hillary's passions.
We talked about what we as women were going to be able to do to make people's lives better, and the kind of concern she had for women bringing children up in poverty. and not having a way out of it.
In June of 1973, Bill returned to Arkansas after they both graduated. Hillary did not follow. She went to Washington, where activist Marian Wright Edelman hired her to help build the Children's Defense Fund.
Hillary came as an early voice to that, came to us before we were in any way known, as a young student, right out of law school. And she has had a passion about children and family and the poor and about education for all the time that I've known her.
Then came Watergate, and the nation was riveted by the news of a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters by aides to President Richard Nixon. When it was suggested that the president was involved in a cover-up, the question of impeachment arose. It would be an extraordinary opportunity for Hillary. John Doerr, special counsel to the House Judiciary Committee, handpicked 43 of the brightest young lawyers for his investigation. Hillary was one of only 3 women lawyers he selected. For the next 8 months, she researched impeachment procedures and sat in on proceedings.
There are tearful goodbyes now at the helicopter because Julie Nixon Eisenhower...
On August 9th, 1974, the impeachment inquiry ended. President Nixon had resigned. Hillary, like many of her colleagues, was offered a high-powered job with one of the nation's top law firms. Bill was still down in Arkansas. She had to decide what she really wanted to do.
I didn't think that Hillary would move to Arkansas with Bill. But an awful lot of that was because it became clear to me Hillary was a future national leader in this country.
In 1974, Hillary decided she'd try Arkansas, but only for a year. She took the bar and signed on at the State University in Fayetteville, teaching criminal law. Bill was a professor there and already campaigning for Congress. At the end of that first year, Bill had lost his congressional bid, but was clearly interested in running again for public office. Hillary, however, had still not made up her mind about moving to Arkansas permanently, so she went home to visit her parents and think things over. When she returned, Bill had a surprise for her.
And I picked her up at the airport, and I drove her back, and I said, you know, I bought that house you liked. She said, what? I said, that house you like, I bought it, so you better marry me because I can't live in this big house by myself.
She said yes.
It was a beautiful house, a little brick house. And the wedding was very small with a couple of her personal friends, and we enjoyed it very much.
As I said, it was the spur of the moment. We've decided we can do it, and she'd gone out the day before and bought her dress with her mom.
I was crushed. Not because I wasn't happy for them, and I guess I should have been able to see the inevitable, but it really meant that Hillary wasn't just having a good time on a temporary adventure in Arkansas. It really meant that my dreams for her to run for office, for president or United States senator, weren't going to happen.
I mean, as much as she had accomplished in her own right and fought to bring her status up to a fine professional level, I think her heart got in the way a little bit on this one, and I'm glad it did.
It was November 1976 that Bill Clinton won his first campaign. He was elected state attorney general, and the couple moved to Little Rock.
Broad range of responsibilities for fighting crime and improving the criminal justice system.
But Hillary chose to be more than a politician's wife. She pursued her legal career with the small but elite Rose Law Firm, becoming the first woman attorney in a firm known as the oldest west of the Mississippi. To avoid being judged by her husband's merits, Hillary kept her maiden name, Rodham. And her position at Rose allowed her to continue her child advocacy.
She got a neonatal unit put into the Arkansas Children's Hospital. She established the Arkansas Advocates for Family and Children. She was a national leader in the Children's Defense Fund.
While Hillary and Bill started out making the same salary, Hillary's earnings quickly surpassed her husband's. She made enough to risk $1,000 in the volatile commodities market, turning it into $100,000 in just 2 years. It was also during this period that the Clintons and friends James and Susan McDougal invested in a real estate venture called Whitewater.